I'm Michael Shear, live here in Tampa at the Republican Convention. National political correspondent Jim Rutenberg joins me to talk about the opening of the convention, Isaac, which just strengthened to a hurricane this morning, and everything else we've got going on. So, Jim, how are you?
I'm great. They just gavelled the convention to order, so here we go.
They did. Big night for Mitt Romney. He's been running for president for at least 6 years or so. It's a big moment for him. That today really is the culmination of that. Talk about what kind of moment it is.
I mean, after all this time, the primaries, the back and forth with Obama day in and day out from the minute he secured the nomination, so to speak, without formally getting it, which you'll get here, he finally gets the stage. This is his moment to present himself as he wants.
And so what's the message that, if we look out over the course of the next, say, 72 hours, what's the message that they're going to try to send, and what are they going to try to accomplish with that message to set them up for the next 8 weeks or so?
Look, this is going to be so much about who Mitt Romney is. I mean, think about it. They have control of cable news now for hours and days. They have prime time, at least an hour a night on networks. This is going to really be about humanizing Mitt Romney first and foremost, and whacking at Obama whenever they can, President Obama.
So sort of a dual message, and a lot of it is about the humanizing aspect, right? We've seen this in polls over and over again, this idea that President Obama is seen as more likable. Mitt Romney has struggles with that connection, and so you have that effort throughout the course of the day today to kind of bring his personality to life.
Yeah, wherever we go, I'm walking through our press filing center, and there's John Voight, the actor, talking about what a great guy Romney is. You guys have to meet him for real and see what he's really like. So that's it. And if they can change that perception, he is in a much better position in this race in terms of polls and his competitive position with Obama.
Right. Let's take a listen right now. The convention just started, and I think let's take a listen to what they're doing today.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So they just did the Pledge of Allegiance. Obviously, they're going to go through all of these ceremonial
a nationally recognized
moments.
Singer.
I think they're going to do some singing and all of that kind of stuff. What comes after this, though, had been really staged, had been really planned carefully over months and months by all of the strategists for Mr. Romney.
Right.
It hasn't quite turned out to follow script, right?
Well, tropical storm, now Hurricane Isaac, has really upended their schedule here. As you know, we were suspended yesterday. That left all of us reporters milling about looking for a story, and it gave people like supporters of Ron Paul and some of the kind of Tea Party insurgents who were never quite behind Romney some time to cook up some challenges to the rules that we'll see here on the convention floor today.
Yeah, let's definitely talk about that some more, although let's, on the hurricane, right, so that is still an issue for this campaign. I mean, it sort of grazed Tampa. All of us got a little bit wet, but that's about all. Right. But it is still heading towards New Orleans. That's an image problem for the campaign, is it not?
It's a scheduling problem, because if it hits New Orleans and creates a lot of damage, they may have to call things off here. So, and then imagery, the Republican Party is haunted by Hurricane Katrina. It was a horrible moment for President Bush. It was a horrible moment for the country. And so they don't want to be competing with those images and those reminders.
And President Obama has to deal with that as well. We have a clip of the president talking from the White House today before he left on his own campaign swing. Let's listen to a little bit of how he dealt with that question.
I want to thank everyone who has been working around the clock to get ready for Isaac. The hardest work, of course, is still ahead. And as president, I'll continue to make sure that the federal government is doing everything possible to help the American people prepare for and recover from this dangerous storm.
So let's get back to this question about that you mentioned earlier about the floor fights. The part of the script was supposed to be unity at this convention, right? I mean,
right.
The idea that you take this divisive primary, all of these folks who had competed against each other for the Republican nomination, everybody comes together and, sings Kumbaya. Did it happen that way?
Well, not quite. And again, let's keep this in perspective. Tonight, this could all be forgotten. But The Ron Paul faction really is upset. They wanted him to have a bigger presence at this convention.
No speaking role.
No speaking role. So today, when we were sitting here, a contingent of Ron Paul supporters were chanting his name. That isn't where they want to start.
Right, and there was an issue with that the Ron Paul folks seized onto about the rules of the convention, the rules going forward. Mitt Romney's folks had tried to change the rules in ways that might help them several years down the road if Mitt Romney becomes president and he's running for re-election. How did that? Is that all resolved now?
This is not resolved. And what started here was like last Friday when most people were going about their business and their summer vacations. The Romney campaign tried to change the rules in a way that we won't go into all the details. It's really arcane, but tried to change the rules so that there couldn't be these insurgent Ron Paul candidacies that would have as much kind of oxygen to create the challenges. Let's leave it at that. So that still has to be resolved because those rules are going down a track in the Romney's direction.
So they'll do that during the afternoon. Then they'll get to the speakers, right? And that's what they'll hope will kind of bring that sense of unity, all these sort of list of speakers. One of those is Nikki Haley, the governor of South Carolina. Our colleague Jeff Zeleny had a conversation with Governor Haley earlier today. Let's take a quick look at their conversation.
So, Governor, this is your first Republican convention, and you're speaking tonight. What are your thoughts about addressing that big of an audience, Republican supporters? What's the mood?
Oh, I'm excited. The energy around here is great. The ability to go and educate people on Mitt and Ann Romney and the vision that they have for our country. This is exciting. We're 70 days out. This is the time where everyone is paying attention, and to be able to go and be a part of that, it's an honor for me, but it's exciting for everybody that's here.
How have Republicans, either commentators like Rush Limbaugh or elected officials like Todd Akin, played a role in the Democrats' argument that there's a war on women in the Republican Party? How serious is that for voters in the next 70 days?
It's not serious. It's silly. You know, I mean, Akin's comments were just insulting. You know, it's embarrassing for him. But when you look at the party in general, for the Democrats to imply that women are one-issue voters is insulting to me. It's demeaning to women. That's not how we think. Women consider everything. They care about jobs in the economy. They care about the health care and how it's going to affect their families. They care about the debt that's being passed on to their children, and they care about whether their retirement's going to mean anything. They care about all issues. I know pro-life women that are in the Democratic Party. I know pro-choice women that are in the Republican Party. We are so much more than one issue.
In 1972, the first woman to ever chair the Republican National Committee was pro-choice. She was Mary Louise Smith from Iowa. Now there is not a pro-choice speaker on the lineup during the convention at all. Is this party still welcoming to women who have the pro-choice view? Should there be more of a diversity of speakers on this issue?
You know, I'm pro-life. But I'm pro-life not because the party tells me to be, but because I had trouble having my children. My husband is adopted, so we're blessed every day. What you're seeing is experiences out on that stage, not labels out on that stage. We're going to bring out what we're dealing with, what we're dealing with in our states, what we've seen in the country, what people care about. This is not about one issue.
Are Republicans here as excited about electing Mitt Romney as they are defeating President Obama, or does that not matter?
I think Republicans are excited about how we can self-correct our country. Republicans want to know that the unemployment situation is going to get better, that the economy is going to get better, that we're not going to chase companies overseas, that we're actually going to bring them in to our country, that we're actually going to improve all of the deficits that we have. We're going to take on entitlement reform. We're going to become energy independent. That's what they care about. That's what this energy is about, is what happens when you take a business person, you put them in the White House and you say, okay, fix it. And they know that he can do that.
Do you think that Governor Romney needs to improve his personal connection to voters to close some of that likability gap?
We don't elect people because they look good in a picture or hold a baby well. We elect people because they have proven results. He has proven results. It's not about liking him. People don't care about liking who they elect. They care about electing someone that's going to work for them, that's going to fight for them, that's going to prove that they deserve to be there. That's what he needs to do this week. That's what we all need to help him do this week. And I think that's what the voters want to see.
Sarah Palin has advised her or asked her supporters to stand up to what the Romney campaign is trying to do with the Rules Committee fight on the floor. But do you think the Romney campaign is being too heavy-handed here in terms of how delegates are selected state by state? or is that how it goes because they won the primary after all?
I'm not familiar with the rules changes that they're talking about. I've heard bits and pieces of it. What I will tell you from my standpoint is we should never close the door on any candidate. And we need to keep our doors open because the Republican Party is open to all types of people with all types of visions and all types of passions.
So give me one hint of what you're going to say tonight.
I'm going to talk about how the hardest part of my job as being governor of South Carolina has been this administration.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
So, Jim, you were actually at that interview. You saw it. Is Nikki Haley an effective messenger for this outreach to women that the governor is trying to put out there?
To me, it's like in the Romney campaign textbook. If you open the page to ideal surrogate, there she is.
Yeah.
She is really kind of the perfect messenger for them during this convention.
And two other important messengers that we'll be watching later tonight. You'll have Governor Christie, who will be giving the final keynote speech, and Ann Romney, the governor's wife. Talk about how they fit into both of this to this campaign and what they're trying to do here.
Someone today referred to it as the hammer and the rose, right? So Christie is going to come bringing a really tough message, we would think. That's what he does. And the Romney campaign, when they, to the extent that they considered him as a vice presidential nominee, they love the way he gives a message. It's forceful. It gets people's attention. It's entertaining. Then to counterbalance that, which they have to be a little careful with, they don't want to look too negative with national television coverage, we have Ann Romney. She's the most important surrogate for Mitt Romney, the man.
Very popular, likable in a way that he struggles with, as we talked before, and will probably focus very much on what we talked about at the top, the personality and how do you humanize him.
Right. I mean, I don't want to, I swore I'd never use it, but I'm going to the secret weapon cliche. I will never say that again. But she is really humanizing. She understands him, and that's what he needs right now. Again, no matter what Governor Haley said, they know that they need to make him more relatable.
Right. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
For some of the social media reaction to all of this, Jim Roberts is in our media center. He's with Ben Smith, the editor-in-chief of Buzzfeed, our convention partner. And they're talking more about the prospects of a Ron Paul floor fight and other events. Take it away, Jim.
All right, Mike, thanks a lot. So, Ben, when we were here yesterday, we were talking about 16,000 journalists and not a story. Well, today we have a few stories and a few headlines to be chasing. Let's start off with some of the top ones on your list.
Well, I think what happened just right now on the convention floor is Ron Paul made a little curtain call and and there were chants, President Paul.
Right.
I think his people are kind of spoiling for a fight in there, feel like they got tricked and excluded by, and some of them actually still think that Ron Paul actually won a majority of votes. It was just stolen from them. So I think they're trying to find some way to cause a little fuss on the floor.
And they seem to have a real issue, though, at least in terms of this notion that they feel like, the actions of the party could really affect how the nominating process goes forward in subsequent cycles, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Romney, they're putting through this rule so that Romney or the party leadership can basically change the party rules as they go along to make sure that nothing like Ron Paul happens again. Paul people understandably a little upset about that.
Yeah, I was with I found myself with a number of Ron Paul supporters at a local establishment last night, and I was struck by the sheer passion that they're approaching this idea. I mean, this really is an issue of, whether it's a moral issue, there's a cause here that they really feel like they believe in.
Nobody is getting Mitt Romney neck tattoos.
Right, yeah. The one thing that I wondered is, okay, and maybe we'll know this in the next hour or two, is just, to what extent they really can disrupt the proceedings.
It seems like they probably can. Our reporters who are out there are saying they're going to need 5 or 6 states in order to bring about a floor fight.
Right.
They don't seem to have the votes.
Okay.
There had been they had made a kind of alliance with disgruntled grassroots conservatives that fell apart overnight. The Romney people kind of brought those guys back to the fold. I don't think there's going to be any kind of procedural traction.
Right. So this is Ron Paul's moment, and we now move on.
I think this is his last stand.
Okay, I want to turn to a story that you wrote earlier today on BuzzFeed about the welfare ad that the Romney campaign put out several weeks ago, right?
Yeah, and it's been airing. I mean, they don't talk about it all the time.
Right.
It's been airing very heavily in swing states ever since.
Now, this one basically, the point of it was that under Obama, the work rules of welfare had been gutted, more or less, right?
That was the word.
Yeah. Okay. Just again, tell me. And I know that the Washington Post had they did a fact check on it, awarded it 4 Pinocchios. But you had an interesting interview regarding it today.
Yeah, Neil Newhouse, the Romney campaign's pollster, was asked about this ABC event about the Washington Post fact check. He said, "We're not going to let our campaign be run by. We're not going to let the fact checkers tell us how to run this campaign."
Okay,
which,
okay, and that exploded on social media.
Totally exploded on Twitter. I think every Democrat who'd been watching the campaign kind of said, "Aha, that's what we're."
Okay, so we're not going to pay attention to the facts.
Exactly. I asked Newhouse about it afterwards. He said the fact checkers had jumped the shark. The facts they felt are on their side.
That's great. Any other social media observations today? What seems to be attracting most attention?
I don't know. One of people's favorite things to do is, of course, to take pictures of themselves with celebrities on Twitter. But celebrities are at the moment in rather short supply.
Right.
Here
So
at the
who's out
Republican
here?
National Convention. So I must have seen hundreds of pictures of people with John Voight.
Right. Okay. I heard about him earlier. Yeah.
It's just kind of him. Then there's the Oak Ridge Boys. And
I've seen them
a
several
couple
times.
Of kind of button-down Republican operatives with pictures with
and
these
the guy with the
huge
really long beard,
guys with giant beards.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Final question. Okay. So actually, things are happening. I know that between now and 11 o'clock, we actually do have a full convention. Prime time tonight. Lots of speakers. We just heard Nikki Haley. She'll be speaking. Later on, Ann Romney, of course, will get a lot of attention. What moments are you going to pay attention to?
I think Christie is a really, he's always a very compelling, interesting speaker. He's also, he's going to be speaking, you're going to have like Anderson Cooper on the split screen, like clinging to a lamppost in New Orleans, and I don't know if Chris Christie's get the hell off the beach shtick is going to hit quite right. I think they need to be a little careful with him.
That's really interesting. That really is, we talked about all the headlines earlier. That, I think, still is going to be the biggest, or one of the biggest ones, certainly over the next 24 hours. I was looking at the satellite maps earlier, and it's getting awfully close to New Orleans. Probably by the time Christie is speaking, you're right. Anderson Cooper might be there.
And I think it seems like it'll likely be raining very hard in New Orleans, but you won't really know yet.
Right. How bad. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right, Ben. Glad to have you on. Maybe we'll get to talk to you again later on this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, thanks again. Mike, back to you.
Yep. Thanks, Jim. I'm joined now over here in our booth by Ashley Parker, one of our correspondents who had an interesting morning today. Ashley, tell me about it.
I went with former New Hampshire Governor John Sununu to watch him speak to the New Jersey delegates. And as sort of longtime Sununu watchers know, he's sort of the id of the Romney campaign. He kind of does and says what they can't or won't do. And a lot of the New Jersey delegates actually likened watching him speak to their own rather, firebrand Governor Christie. In fact, if you want to take a look.
There we have.
It's very rare that I sit alongside such an intelligent and such a sense of humor that Governor Sununu has. So I'm so happy to introduce him also.
You left out warm and kind.
Warm and kind.
Warm and kind are not necessarily the first words that come to mind when most voters think of former New Hampshire Governor John Sununu.
Thank you very much.
He is a fierce supporter of Mitt Romney and prone to going rogue, often saying things the scripted Romney campaign can't or won't. When he spoke to New Jersey delegates on Tuesday morning, he didn't pull any punches.
That's what the Obama administration and the Obama campaign is. They are either the dumbest people in the world and can't read, or they are out and out the most dishonest campaigners I've ever seen.
About 6 weeks ago, on a conference call with reporters, he caused some trouble for the Romney campaign with these comments, though he later apologized.
I wish this president would learn how to be an American.
But it's that very willingness and his un-PC spunk that gets the crowd fired up here at the convention.
You guys are great. Thank you very much. And thank you for being great Republicans. Bye-bye.
He's become something of a celebrity here, getting mobbed by convention goers nearly everywhere he goes. Your reception here has been crazy.
Nice to see you here.
In elevators, in restaurants, in Radio Row.
People are nice.
The Romney campaign, notoriously scripted, and you are known for notoriously going off script?
They know I'm the crazy uncle of the campaign, and as long as I'm 90% right, I guess they're happy. So I've tried to keep it closer to 99.9.
People have been coming up to you and saying, thank you for speaking the truth, thank you for not being politically correct. Sort of what is the un-PC message you would like to give?
The un-PC message is, this president is a fraud. This president never did anything in his life and has done nothing as president. And somehow it's the same as the emperor has no clothes story. And it's my job to point out that he's a fraud.
While I spoke to him, even the press descended en masse to get in on the fun, but we were able to drag him away for a few more questions. Do you think you've ever gone too far?
Actually, I don't. Even when I had to apologize for the comment about President Obama needing to learn how to be an American, that was in the context of the American formula for job creation. If there wasn't such paranoia, both in the Obama White House and the Romney campaign about the birther issue, I wouldn't have had to apologize. But I didn't want that to be misconstrued as being related to that. So I did apologize and moved on to the most important subject, which was we got to create jobs.
So crazy uncle of the campaign, I love it. We've got a little bit of music back here, but talk a little bit about how both important he is, but also kind of what role he plays in the campaign. He's clearly out there all the time.
Yeah, he's very important for this campaign. He's sort of their Uber surrogate. He speaks in quippy, buzzy sound bites, as we saw, even being the zany uncle. They can get him to go out and say stuff that sort of walks right up against that line that they don't necessarily want to be associated with, but is sort of helpful to have out there as an attack dog.
And sometimes, as you talked about, sometimes crossing that line, which then, I guess people then forgive him because he is seen as kind of the guy who just does that.
I mean, you sort of have a staff around him whose job is to kind of go scramble and walk back whatever mistake or incendiary comment he's just made, but that's kind of how it works. They let him go out there, shoot from the hip, and then maybe walk it back or do damage control later.
And a lot of that is the kind of informal, what we call the, being a surrogate and talking with us, but he actually has a formal role here at the convention, too, that's actually quite important and signifies maybe, how much they do rely on a guy like him.
Yeah, he sure does. Actually, in a little while, he's going to be the person who is officially placing Governor Romney's name into the nomination down on the convention floor. And he was sort of all day yesterday busy with radio interviews, busy with TV hits, and he was frantically, we saw him kind of scribbling his speech and trying to get it done at the last minute. But I was with him. He got a playback on his BlackBerry, and he was happy that there weren't too many edits from the campaign. So
awesome. Well, I guess we'll see him. Thanks, Ashley. I appreciate it. A lot of the stuff we're talking about right now is what's going on in the convention center here. Outside of the convention walls, however, voters are more divided than ever. Here in Florida, video journalist Eric Olson found political division even within one family. So far, they agree to disagree, but in many ways, they reflect the national partisan divide.
Okay, count. 1, 2, 3.
My name is Jeanette Ocasio. I am a single mom, and I am an activist for issues related to the Hispanic population.
Today is the grand opening of the office Unidos Now, and we are introducing, it's sort of our coming out party for the community.
Florida is very integrated. There's a lot of Puerto Rican Americans, especially in Central Florida. I started as a Republican. I voted, my first election was when I was, presidential election was when I was 19 years old. I want to believe that I am an independent. I really want to be in the middle, but especially in the last couple of years, I feel that the right has gotten so extreme that they push me left.
Well, I think one of the myths is that every Hispanic voter in Florida is Cuban. And that really is not true. In fact, the majority of Hispanic registered voters are non-Cubans, with Puerto Ricans being the fastest growing element and, of course, very much centered on the I-4 corridor.
This is my Obama 2012 sticker.
I worry about this election because there is a lot more indifference than in 2008. I'm afraid that people will get frustrated and not vote. I have some very good close friends that are from high school, and don't vote, just because they don't see that it affects their day-to-day life at all.
As president, I will promote strong families and I will defend traditional marriage.
My father's from Puerto Rico, my mother's from Honduras. My father is hardcore conservative Republican. He and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of issues. As the years have progressed, I've become more and more liberal. He helps watch my child, and from time to time I will go and pick her up and he's watching Fox News, which irritates me, and I tell him that I will have to expose my daughter to 2 hours of MSNBC for every 1 hour that he lets her watch Fox News.
Well, you're doing it because you're a fanatic without knowledge. People with knowledge, they're not fanatics. I love my daughter. We have a perfect relationship because she respects my point of view. I respect her point of view. She does not try to influence me, although sometimes we have exchanges of ideas.
We're very close. We just don't see. We cancel each other's vote out.
She thinks that Obama is the Messiah. I don't.
I do, at the end of the day, genuinely believe that our president cares about the people. And I just don't feel that from Mitt Romney. He seems very cold.
What did he do about jobs in America? Nothing. Nada. Zero. For 2 years in a row. What were their main goal? Their main goal was to push the Obamacare down our throats.
I do consider myself a new breed of Latino voter. I am very concerned about social issues as opposed to issues directly related to my faith and family.
I made this sign to protest the GOP debate when they came down to Florida, and I'm taking it with me to the convention.
For me, my top concerns are immigration reform, healthcare reform, and women's issues such as a women's right to choose.
Romney is not my first choice, but Romney is the option that we have to beat Obama.
I do consider myself a person of faith. I consider myself a Christian, and it angered me that throughout the process they would talk about the evangelical vote and the power of the evangelical vote, and I just wanted to shake my TV sometimes and say, I am the evangelical vote. I am an evangelical Christian.
But we learn how to respect each other. I admire her for what she does and for her passion that she has for what she does.
Thank you. Yes, got it. This is 4 times more than I expected. This is amazing.
So we got different opinions, but we're still family. We still love each other.
Yeah.
And now we hand you off to our colleagues on the opinion desk temporarily. Op-ed columnist Charles Blow is standing by live with fellow columnist Bill Keller to talk about Romney's challenge making a connection with voters. Take it away, Charles.
Thank you. So, Bill, the convention is finally kicked off. According to reports, there's something like 16,000 journalists here, which would mean about 3 times as many journalists as delegates. You've been covering conventions for some time, since 76, is that right?
76. I haven't done all of them, but I've done, first one I did was 76, the Republicans in New York. And I mean, the honest truth is that of those 16,000 journalists who are here, at the moment, probably 15,500 of them are watching television. That's, you gather in one big place, but the opportunity to do actual reporting is very, very limited. That's the way they're designed, and that's not to say that they don't matter, but right. that they are that there is an element of the absurd. It's less like being a journalist than it is like being a drama critic at a high school play.
Right. But one way that they do matter is that for a lot of voters, this is the first introduction in a big way to both the candidate and his running mate and his family. And to that extent, I think you're writing a blog post tomorrow about, you know,
I wrote today.
You wrote today
Yeah.
about Mitt Romney, how he, you know, what he has to do, what he has to deliver in order to connect to voters.
Right.
What does that say?
I mean, you know, because of the long primary season, the voters have seen a lot of Mitt Romney, but mostly lined up on a stage at a debate or in these kind of packaged commercials. So this is a chance to see him, you know, a full-blown speech. And I do think that, Matt, this is not an event where we frame the debate between Romney and Obama. I mean, that we already sort of know, and there will be actual debates that will do that. Right. It's not where we get a deep look at the Romney agenda. This is not going to be the occasion where he finally tells us what tax loopholes he wants to close or what federal programs he wants to eviscerate.
So then what is his hurdle then? What does he have to do?
The title of the blog post was Filling the Empty Suit, which is a wise guy way of saying he's got to convince people that there is enough flesh and blood and spine inside this suit to make him a plausible alternative to Obama, who, I mean, another thing this is not going to be is the moment when people realize we're disappointed in Obama. Both pollsters watch, which is the country on the right track, says, no, we're not on the right track. That's bad news for Obama. So the question is, can Romney persuade people that he's the guy to replace him? And
how high is that hurdle? You know, the Obama campaign has spent millions of dollars up front trying to paint Romney into a corner, to identify him before he reaches that stage on Thursday, to say this is the guy and you don't like this guy. This is not a guy who can be trusted. This is not a guy who will lead you to a brighter future, and we need more time to do that. How does Romney counter that line of attack?
Well, the way the choreographers of the convention seem to have framed it is it's about humanizing him. That thing is to establish character. This is a guy who, faced with a hard choice, has the guts to make it, has the ability to listen to all the options and probably choose a wise one, and then to stick with it in spite of all the pressures that may buffet him.
So the wisecracking, practical joke-making anecdotes are not what you think America needs to see from Mitt Romney.
I don't think that's what people are going to vote for.
Okay.
I mean, you know, yes, a little bit of warm and fuzzy feeling certainly doesn't hurt.
Right.
But that's not the essential ingredient that's been missing from Romney's campaign. And they have a narrative to tell. I think maybe they will do some of this, but instead of focusing on his parenting skills and his devotion to his wife, they should be talking about episodes in his life where he faced hard choices and made them on his own and stuck by them in spite of hard pressures, where he did something hard, where he led.
Right.
And in his life there are those episodes. They're the things they haven't tended to want to talk about.
Right, but
they go back to being governor of a liberal state.
Exactly. So we have to wrap up here. So what does Mitt Romney have to say on Thursday that he has not already been pinned into a corner where he can't say? He can't necessarily talk too much about Bain because Barack Obama has made that into a negative for him. His signature achievement as governor of Massachusetts was Romney Care, which is the model for Obamacare. What can he say about being painted in that corner? I mean, being faced with a tough decision, making that tough decision. What can he say to America that will make them?
Well, I'm not a political consultant, but if I were advising Romney, I would say you need to reclaim some of those things that you've distanced yourself from. You need to reclaim your record as governor of Massachusetts and give us some examples of things that you did that were hard, and stick by them. Reclaim your Bain activities.
All right, that's it. We're out of time. Thank you, Bill. The Opinion Desk will be back at 4 p.m. and for continuing live coverage. We're kicking off a series of conversations with voters across the country. Today, I'll be joined by my colleagues Gail Collins and Frank Gruney, and we'll speak with voters who supported Barack Obama in 2008 and now are leaning towards Mitt Romney. Okay, back to you, Mike.
Thanks, Charles. Well, we're still in the opening moments of the convention. There's folks coming on and speaking to the delegates. We're listening, I think, to Marsha Blackburn at the moment. Let's listen right now to what's going on live from the convention.
Together, let's defeat Barack Obama. And together, let's save our country for the next generation. Thank you. God bless each of you. God bless our proud military and their families. And may God continue to bless the United States of America. Godspeed.
I think you'll hear a lot of that kind of talk, a lot of that kind of message for the next several hours. We're going to be settled in here at the booth here at the New York Times for the next 3 days. We'll be back live at 7 p.m. tonight and have a lot planned. There'll be full coverage of all the floor activity and lots more, including an interview with House Majority Leader Eric Cantor. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, that's all for now. I'm Michael Shear. Thanks for watching.